Last month, I ran this 30-day memoir writing challenge for a group of women who all run their own businesses. They're all entrepreneurs. They're self-made women who were self-created, and they have the stories to show for it. And so they all came with their hearts full of stories that they're aching to tell in the form of a book, perhaps, for most of them. And one of them even has a completed draft of a manuscript. And I opened the challenge by asking people, what's your relationship to your story right now? And she said, the idea of sitting there with my parents and telling them what's in my book is terrifying. And this taps into the very specific fear of memoir writing. I believe that there is fear in all genres of writing, but the stakes are higher when you're telling your story because it's not just our story. It's in part the story of anyone else who shaped our story. So you're in a very powerful position when you are writing a memoir, when you're telling your story. Because if it involves other people, you have power over that person. So we feel that we can do harm when we tell our story. And the fear that was voiced in that challenge took me back to my own fears 5 years ago when I was writing my memoir, Never Make a Sound, and some of the fears that kept me up at night. And I noticed that the fear pops up at multiple stages in the memoir writing process. Perhaps in other kinds of writing, the fear gradually decreases as you get deeper, deeper into the process and closer to putting out into the world. But I find that when you're telling your story, there's fear before you even tell the story. There's fear once you've done a manuscript, and then there's the fear when you're about to release it, and even more often than that, there's fear throughout the process. And so even after you've actually written the book, the fear has not gone away. And it takes a particularly self-led person to actually create the manuscript in the face of all that fear, like the person in the writing challenge, because these are not fears that we can just dismiss. And when people discover that they can't just dismiss them, they don't actually start the process. But I noticed something else in the fear that was voiced in that challenge, which was this issue of obligation, because I heard an obligation in that too. Because of the power that we hold over others when we tell our story, we put all these invisible obligations on ourselves. Like we have to actually sit down and tell our parents what's in our book. Because here's the thing, we don't. She didn't have to sit down with her parents if she didn't want to. But of course, if you feel that you want to or something you need to do, that also can be a minefield to navigate, and that can freeze people. Because these are fears that really exist at a nervous system level. When visibility does not feel safe yet, we stay stuck. So it's really only through nervous system regulation that we can overcome these fears and actually liberate these untold stories that we're carrying inside us. And I know because I was in that position 5 years ago when my book came out, and I faced a very dramatic consequence for telling my story. There was a lot at stake, so I had to develop the framework to overcome these fears. And what I've learned is that overcoming these fears requires expansion because facing our fears is really about expanding into the new person who can do the thing that we fear. And that kind of expansion requires regulation nervous system regulation, and co-regulation with others. So, containment, being held in containment is a key ingredient in all this. And what I want to leave you with is that that fear does not have to stop you. There is a way to tell the story and feel safe and grounded in doing so. So if this resonates with you, I do have space available to work with people who want to tell their story and navigating these issues. So I invite you to DM me or leave a comment with the word story, and I will share some details with you.